Ghost stories today. Ghost stories. Um, and as long as I don't run out of time, I'm gonna get to the discussion about what happened between little Kurt, 4-year-old little Kurt, and when I was 19, 20, and I had a chosen spiritual awakening as opposed to a forced spiritual awakening, which is what happens when you meet your twin flame. That happened when I was in my late 30s. But in my late teens, early 20s, I just embraced spiritualism. But prior to that, when I was 4, I met physical angels, and I made a video about that last week. I also had an out of body experience, and I made a video about that last week. When I was 4, those things happened. And then there were some interesting experiences between the age of 4 and 20 when I had my chosen, like choosing to be spiritual, that inspired me to want to choose that. And, it's just like knowing that I'm different, certain desires that I had, certain information I was given, just some interesting. And I think it would just be more effective to do like a quick high level description of those years between the ages of 4 and 20. So right now, where I'm at in this video series is, maybe I should put this on a playlist. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put this on a playlist so that it's all in order. I'm trying to go in chronological order, right? Starting with the angel video, or the first angel video when I was 4. So I guess you could say this is like a vlog, if you will. But right now we're at the period where it was my late teens, early 20s, and I felt compelled to embrace spiritualism, but I still had to like do it. I wasn't like forced into it like you do when you meet your twin, right? But it helped. It really did. It helped me to overcome depression and things like that. Things that the depression that I experienced when I was 4, or when I was a teenager, maybe even a little bit younger too. But yeah, it really did. It really did. So today I'm going to tell you some ghost stories, and I'm going to go kind of just all around in time. I'll kind of just tell you all of my ghost stories. Quick piece housekeeping. Find me over here. Go check me out over here. I'm doing a video every week, or I'm trying to do a video every week. On this platform, same thing as YouTube. You can go here and watch videos. Just look for me there. New World All Star. All Star is one word, ALLSTAR. And what I'm trying to do is find my soul tribe. So if you like what I'm doing over here, great. If you don't, great, no problem. Maybe it's just not for you. But what I think I'm doing is finding my soul tribe, people who are interested in like a realistic, pragmatic, practical approach to New Earth. Like, let's be realistic about this. So check me out over here so that we can all live together in peace and prosperity. So yesterday, I told you the story about my friend who left me physical evidence of telepathy, more than once, actually. Today, we're doing some ghost stories. So I was living in an apartment when I was 20, which was in an old building, beautiful building. And I had probably the best apartment in the whole place, really. It was an old, I think it was a Catholic school or something. And it was converted into apartments in the 1940s. But the building was built in the 1880s. So it had like a big courtyard out front and like a antique wrought iron fence all the way around it. And it had that Gothic, spooky look to it, but it was cool. It was beautiful, beautiful Victorian style kind of building. And the very grand, staircase leading up to the big doors at the front. All the windows on the front they were clear at the bottom, the rectangular part of the window, and then at the top was a little eyebrow window above each one of those, which was stained glass. So it had stained glass, and they had left all the original windows in, and everything. It was a beautiful building. And my apartment was on the top floor in the center, overlooking the courtyard. Doesn't get any better than that. And again, this was the period in my life where I really started to embrace spiritualism. So in the last video, I described this, and this was when my friend and I were living together. The guy who had the very intense telepathic experience, and he left me a written record of it. And like I said yesterday, I've never seen anybody with telepathy like this guy. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, you should go check it out. It's pretty mind-blowing. Well, anyway, I moved out of the apartment where we lived together, and I moved into my own place. And unbeknownst to me, there was a ghost living there. Or I think not really a ghost, but a spirit. There's a difference between a ghost and a spirit. And shadow people, and there's like spirit vermin, spirit. Eckhart Tolle has spoken about like spiritual vermin. He calls them spiritual vermin, but they're really these like weird demon entities that attack you and things like this, that live on kind of like an in-between plane, plane, between, say, the physical dimension and where you go when you do the thing that we call die. Hermetic philosophy talks about this. This has been known about for a long time. Well, anyway, labels aside, there was something there, right? There was something there. And I didn't know that at the time, but when I moved in, but I started meditating when I was there a lot. So this happened when I was living with my friend. I moved out, I moved to my place, and he gave me a copy of The Power of Now, and I started meditating, and I really embraced spiritualism, and it helped me a lot overcome my teenage depression. And I had some deep meditations in that place, man. And I was just very interested in that kind of thing. I found like a little spiritual church to go to. They called it church, but it was really because, I don't know what else to call it, because once the weekly meeting would start, that's kind of where the word church doesn't work anymore, because it's not a belief system that they're serving up in that place. And, we would all do group meditations, and we would read The Power of Now together. And it's kind of a nice place. I kind of liked it. There was a guy, this is worth telling you. They have at the end, telepathic people who give you messages, right? They give you messages, and you're just sitting there during the whole sermon, and at the end of the sermon, they go, you there in the red coat, I've got a message for you. And you can say no thank you, or you can say okay. And they give you a message that they received. That was a message for you. And first time I ever went to this place, I remember the old guy told me, I see you building big buildings, large structures, a big organization, doing a lot of things for a lot of people. And remember, I was 20, and here I am, 44, and look at what I'm doing. He said, I see you building big buildings, large structures. I'm speaking metaphorically, but that's basically what you're going to be doing. Helping a lot of people, doing something really big, but you need to re-sole an old pair of shoes first. And I said, okay. And now I know what he meant, because here I am. That was 25 years ago when he told me that. So anyway, that's kind of what I was doing while I was living in this apartment. I started embracing this stuff. And I meditated a lot. I meditate probably not quite as much now, even. Um, yeah, maybe about the same. I don't know. But I meditate for about 45 minutes in the morning and then like 20 minutes at night. But I would meditate 3, 4 times a day back then. And I was a pizza delivery man. So I was just driving all day and I would meditate while I drive. Like a waking meditation, which actually makes you a more alert driver. You're more aware. Well, anyway, I uh, one night I was I was in the living room. I wanted to get something out of the closet in the bedroom. The light in the bedroom was turned off, but I knew right where it was. I went directly to the closet and opened the door, and I reached up to grab the thing off the shelf, and immediately I was overcome with this piercing and overwhelming sense of like primal animal fear, like animalistic, like it was primal. It was like deeply like gut wrenching. It just took over. Like I was paralyzed with fear, just like I'm about to die or something. And I didn't know this at the time, but that is something that happens when there's a spirit around. And you're picking up on it. It's your animal sense. It's your intuitive sense, and that's your body's way of interpreting like this presence that's there. So it wanted whatever it is to make itself known to me, and I closed my eyes, and I remember in my mind's eye looking behind me and seeing the window in the bedroom, and there was this, it was this blurry white face like staring at me, like watching me. And it was fucking terrifying because I just knew something was there watching me. And I was like, no, 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 or whatever, like cowering in the corner of the room. And it's this dark room too, right? In this old spooky building, which was a beautiful building, but it had that gothic ambiance, and like original oak wood floors and the whole bit, right? Well, anyway, it kind of wore off, and I was like, okay, I got to get out of this dark room, right? So I'm going to go to the living room, which is right through the door. And as I'm walking up to the door, I just knew that if I looked into the living room and turned my head and looked at the couch, that there was going to be some entity or a demon or a ghost or sitting in the couch, like like a scene from that movie Ghostbusters, right? Like I was like, there's going to be, it's, I just knew there's going to be something sitting on the couch looking back at me or something. You know what I mean? And what I mean by I just knew was it was the fear telling me that. It was not intuitive at all. But I really was like, there's going to be some motherfucker sitting on the couch looking at me or something. I was like so scared to even go out into the living room after what just happened to me. And so I like peek my head around the corner and there's nothing there. And I'm like, okay. And I stayed up all night talking to my friend about it. Wait. No. No, I did not talk to him about it. I was talking to my girlfriend about it. Yeah. That's actually important. That's actually important to the story. I just realized that too. I didn't tell him. Huh. Yeah, I didn't tell him. Well, anyway, I didn't tell him. Huh. So a couple of weeks later, I was giving singing lessons to this girl, right? That I was dating. It was her that I told. I was giving her singing lessons We were in the bedroom because the acoustics were good. And he stopped by. My friend, the telepathic guy that had the forced spiritual awakening. And he comes into the bedroom, and after about a minute, he gets this funny look on his face, like, he just kind of starts doing that. And my girlfriend and I stop and we look at him and we're like, what? And he goes, I'll tell you later. And by the way, leading up to that, I should mention this. He was like, he went to the bathroom and he was checking out my apartment. And as he was walking around the place, he's like, I feel really hot. Not hot, like temperature hot, though. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like super energetic. And I feel this buzzing throughout my body, and it's very distracting. And then it was a couple of minutes later when we were in the bedroom and he started making those funny looks on his face and looking around. And then he said, I can't tell you. I'll tell you later. And he's like, by the way, this energy, it's too much. It's like this hot, buzzy energy. It's like I stuck my finger into a light socket or something. I got to go. I got to leave this place. And I was like, okay. Well, a few nights later, he told me that whatever was living there in this apartment, it was talking to him. Because you know how telepathic he is, right? Remember I told you in yesterday's video, and they had a conversation. And this spirit told him, is there anything I can do to help you with this guy? This guy seems really important. I know things about him. He's here to do something big. He's here to do something important. And here he is wasting his life away because I was, busy partying and working at shit jobs and fucking around and, being 20. And it just wasn't time yet. But this spirit entity was like pleading with him, like, please let me help. Is there anything I can do to help you? Because he's fucking around. He's wasting his time. He's wasting his potential, talking about me. This spirit was telling him that, right? Because of the things that I was doing. I was busy partying and chasing women and, whatever. I was being 20. And this entity knew that I was supposed to be important or something, I don't know. And that's what happened. He and this entity had a conversation. I named the entity Cynthia, the spirit. I named it Cynthia after John Lennon's first wife because I was listening to a lot of Beatles at the time. They're still my favorite. The Beatles. That's all I wanted to listen to was the Beatles. And I just decided to name it Cynthia. So after John Lennon's first wife. Yeah, that was interesting. There was another time when I was partying at this dude's house that I met at the pizza place I was working at. His name was Chris. And not a good bunch of dudes to hang out with. I should say they were nice guys. They were good guys. But, what they would do in their free time is not good to do. And I said no a lot more than I said yes, because they did things that I wasn't even comfortable doing. And I'm just going to put it like that. But still, while I was there partying one night, I was overcome with this deep fear, like something really bad was about to happen. And I panicked and I was like, I have to leave the house right now. And I started gathering up my shit to leave. And the guys are looking at me going, why are you leaving? I don't know. There's something's going to happen. I was overcome with this deep sense of fear. I got to get out of here. I don't know if the cops are going to show up or something, but it was that primal animal fear. And the guy, Chris, he goes, oh, no. I know what it is. There's a ghost living here. That happened to me too. It's a ghost, man. And I thought that was pretty cool. that he actually knew what that was. And the sense of fear. And he even told me, yeah, it likes to hang out in this one cabinet over here, you know. There was another time where I parked in front of a it's like one of those organizations like the International Organization of Odd Fellows, or the Masons, or the Elks, or the Liberty Hall Grange, I think they call it. One of those kinds of organizations. It was one of their buildings, and it's kind of out in the country, and it's kind of a spooky area. And originally, I had walked there one day from where I was living at the time. I walked all the way there. It was a long walk. And I sat on the steps. And I said, if there's anything living here, I just want to say hi. Because it was an old building, and I figured there's probably something there. And I didn't feel anything that time. But then another time, like a year later, when I drove there and parked in front of the place, I felt it. I felt it. I felt the fear. And I don't get the fear anymore. Or if I do, I know what it is, and then it goes away. But I can tell when there's spirits, entities around. Very interesting. Okay, here's another interesting story. You guys are going to think this is really cool. So this is going to be a long video. What the heck? Okay, so that was early 20s. Everything that I just described. Now, when I was 25, 26, I met somebody, my first fully official partner, person that I was with. We were together for a long time, and we were together for about 12 years. Nicest person. And, we met when I was 25 or 26, I think. And I started dating her. I kind of fell off the bandwagon spiritually starting around the time that we met. So I had this little window of time from when I was 19, 20 until I was 26, where I was into the spiritual stuff. And I've got more stuff to talk about from that period too, and even from my teenage years. I might have to just do a whole kind of a wrap-up video for that. I might actually just have to do a video about those little odds and ends from the time when I was 4 up until I was 25, kind of the odds and ends kind of things. And it's going to be a video about, you watching. You might actually benefit from watching it because it'll be you're spiritual if, or you might be a star child if, right? You felt these things, or you've had these kinds of thoughts. I don't know. So I might just go ahead and do a specific video about that next week or something. But this video, I'm going to try to not make it super long. We'll see. I don't know. But I got a lot of interesting ghost stories to tell. So this one was, I think I was, 31 or something. I was with her at the time in my life. That was my situation. We were together. We were living together. And, oh, by the way, she had telepathic visions of me before her and I met. And she had seen ghosts and things when she was a little kid. One time she saw a boy sitting on a rock eating a sandwich or something. I don't know, a little ghost boy. And then he was gone the next time she looked. But he was transparent. And she would see things in her dreams all the time. Like if I was going to be in some kind of danger, she would see it ahead of time. Very interesting. Anyway, so one day my car needed some work. And I had a buddy at the time who was a gearhead. He liked to work on cars. He had an apartment, and they don't let you work on cars at the apartment complex. So he rented a storage unit, and it was kind of out in the boonies a little bit, kind of out in the sticks, out in the country, And it was one of those outdoor storage units, like a big garage kind of thing. And he had all of his tools set up, and you could pull your car up a little bit. He'd jack it up, and he'd be working on your car. And he loved working on his car, man. He was always all over that thing. And he liked to go off-roading. We would go off-roading in the woods and stuff like that. I still like to do that. But anyway, he said, yeah, bring your car over. We'll fix it up. And before this day, he told me that he saw a shadow person walking around the perimeter outside the outside fence of the storage facility. And it was a shadow person. Oh, I got to tell you about the cornfield too. I can't forget that. Oh my God. I've seen a shadow person too. And this was when I was in high school. Oh man, you guys are going to pee your pants when I tell you that story. Oh my God. Okay. So anyway, so he said, well, let me finish this part. He said he saw the shadow person and it had a black cat with it. Also, he's a table pounding atheist, my friend. He's a table pounding atheist. And I don't have anything against atheists. And it's actually pertinent to this story, right? Or like my friend who was communicating with the spirit in my apartment. He didn't know about the spirit. I didn't tell him about it. Remember that? I told my girlfriend about it, but I didn't tell him. And then he shows up and then at my apartment and he had that communication with her. Well, anyway, my buddy doesn't believe in shadow people. Well, he does now. And he just thinks of it as like, well, it's some life form. And he's not really wrong about that. Yeah, you're right, buddy. It's a life form. It's just some life form we haven't figured out yet. Maybe quantum physicists could explain it better. He would tell you something like that. He would have some explanation. Maybe they phase in and out of some higher quantum dimension. And you know what I would say to him if he said that? I would say, touche. Because you guys know how I am about the science. Yeah, guys, this stuff isn't magic. There's no magic. You can explain this stuff. Yeah, there are different dimensional realms that these things exist on. Well, anyway, so my girlfriend at the time that I was with, I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to be scared. She was a sweet person, super nice, one of the nicest people that you've ever met. But like if I told her some stuff like that, she would be terrified and I'm never going to go there. And she would like have nightmares about it for a month. Like she was super like skittish about that stuff. I'm not exaggerating. If I told her about the shadow person, she would have nightmares about it for weeks. She would not be able to stop thinking about it, So I knew that she had that like she would like obsessively think about it. She would kind of go into a tailspin. She doesn't like to hear about stuff like that, right? So even if she doesn't have to have first person experience with, say, a shadow person, even if she just hears a story, that is enough to like send her into a week or two long like tailspin about it. Like she really doesn't like that stuff. So I didn't say shit to her about it. Well, anyway, I forgot about the damn shadow person. And we go there to fix my car. It's free mechanic. And there's that too. Like I need to get my car fixed. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So we go there. He knows about the shadow person. I know about the shadow person with a black cat. Remember, shadow person with a cat, a shadow cat, right? She doesn't know about it. We're there working on my car, and he realizes he needs a special tool. And we say, hey, let's go to the auto parts store. They rent these tools there. Okay. And we didn't feel like picking up. We're like, God, we got to pick up all of our stuff. But we'll do it. We'll pick it up. We're like, all right, well, let's pick everything up. And my girlfriend, she goes, oh, guys, just leave it. I'll just hang out here, and I'll keep an eye on it. I'll smoke a cigarette, and I'll hang out. And we're like, all right, right on. So we left. She has a cigarette. We go to the auto parts store. We come back. And she comes up to us like this, guys, oh my God, I saw this thing, oh my God, like that. She's all fucked up and panicked. And Kurt, I saw a shadow person, oh my God, and it had a cat with it, what am I gonna do? And we got her calmed down. And that was it. She saw this shadow person, and it had a black cat with it. Atheist sees one. She doesn't know about it, and she sees it. She sees the same thing. He said, I saw a shadow person with a cat. She says, I saw a shadow person with a cat. And they didn't exchange stories. I didn't tell her about it. They both saw the same thing. I did not see it, but they both did. And I didn't tell her that he saw a shadow person. And then later she sees the same thing with a black cat. Okay, so let's rewind to 1995, 96. Worked at a grocery store. They went on strike. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, fuck this. I went and got a job at Kmart. Remember Kmart? I worked at Kmart for just a few months until the strike was over. And there were these kids there one night, and they go, yeah, we're going to go to such and such place. And they used like a slang term for it. And I knew right away what they were talking about. It was an old country cemetery that is in the like northern part of Colorado here, right? It's in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I've been there, and it is your Hollywood quality, spooky movie, scary movie, spooky cemetery. Just is the most stereotypical. I swear to God, if you guys could see this cemetery, back then in the 90s, they fixed it up actually since then. Somebody decided in the early 2000s to put some money into it and fix it up. But back then it was a little bit in disrepair. You know, it was a tiny little cemetery in the middle of nowhere, like out in the middle of the country. Nothing around, just farmland. And then a cemetery, right? And nothing around for 50 miles in that direction, that direction, that direction, that direction. You know, maybe a farmhouse. That's it. It's the middle of nowhere, and then a cemetery. And, you know, there were headstones from like 1897. This person died in 1897, and it's got the wrought iron fence all around it. And it was kind of small, and it's got the spooky old tree, and you know, there were headstones for babies that lived like a couple of weeks, you know, and they died because the infant mortality rate was a lot higher back then. This one died in 1902 or something. This one died in 1884 or whatever. Just, I mean, you guys get the idea. It was the stereotypical Hollywood movie cemetery, spooky cemetery, creepy cemetery. It really was. It was the coolest, you guys. And I had been in there several times in the daytime. I never went at night. And these kids were like, yeah, we're going to go there at night. We're going to be there at 10:30 tonight or something. And they didn't invite me because I was new and they didn't really know me. But that's cool. I got a surprise for you guys. I know right where that place is. So I decided I was going to play a prank on them. So there's a curve in the road right before you get to the cemetery. And I parked my car behind the curve, right? I parked here, and then I got on foot and I walked around the curve so they couldn't see like my headlights or anything. And they're all congregated over here in front of the cemetery, right in front of it. And I run out and I go, or whatever, as I'm screaming. I emerged from the dark screaming, and I screamed bloody. I did it a lot better than I just did a second ago, right? I screamed bloody murder, like, or something like that, right? Like a good bloody murder scream, right? And everybody, oh my God, Well, actually, no, I think just the girls. It scared the girls, but the guys were like, what the fuck? They knew it was just a prank or something. And it was over fast. It was like the girls just went, ah! I'm exaggerating. I didn't do a very good job scaring them, but I did surprise them very much. I did scare a couple of people. It was a cool prank, but it was like not a very big reaction on their part. There's somewhat of a reaction. So it was fine. But anyway, everybody laughed and it was all fine. And oh, Kurt, you son of a gun, And we're all hanging out, and all the guys are daring each other. Yeah, you go in there. No, you go in there. Fuck you. I'll go in there. Oh yeah, well, whatever. Everybody's. And one guy went in there. Remember, it's pitch black. There's no lights around. It's the middle of the country. One guy went in there to show off to the girls, right? And he's in there. So let's say this is the cemetery. He's here, right? And we saw a shadow person here. And he was actually, like, we all were looking at him. He was here. And you could see him. You could see his face. There was like the moonlight. You could see flesh. You could see him. You could see the plaid shirt he was wearing. You could see him. You know what I mean? So just to be clear, we weren't looking at him when we saw the shadow person. We saw him over here and then the shadow person over here. Okay, here's another thing. So the cornfield butts right up to the fence. So it's cemetery, fence, corn stalks, right there, right? Cemetery, fence, corn stalks. Corn stalks touching the fence, right? And the corn stalks were probably 5.5, 6 feet tall. About as tall as I am. Actually, a little taller. I'm 6 feet. I think I was 16 or 17. And I was at my full height. And the corn stalks were, up here. So they were over 6 feet. Maybe almost 7 feet. I don't know, 6.5, 7 feet tall corn stalks. And we're all laughing and joking around. And then somebody goes, "What's that?" And we all look over. And it was kind of one of those moments where it was everybody, because it was like the tone of the guy's voice when he said, "What's that?" Right? It was like the tone of his voice where he really got our attention because everybody knew just instinctually, like, there's really a problem. You know what I mean? And so everybody went silent like that. We were all laughing and joking around. Oh, yeah, he's probably going to trip over a skeleton, being loud. And then the other guy goes, "What's that?" And everybody goes, like just dead silence. As soon as the guy goes, "What's that?" Right? And everybody all in unison, there had to be 12 of us in the group. Everybody all in unison, our heads all turn, and you're looking at a black figure. God, should I be talking about this? Damn. You're looking at a black figure of a person, and it's a good 4 feet taller than the corn stalks. Remember, the corn stalks are 6, 7 feet tall. So how tall is this fucking thing? 15 feet? 11 feet? 12 feet? Right? And we just stared at it for about 5 or 6 seconds in disbelief. Just silence. We were just all like dumbfounded. Just like, duh, right? Like, what? Like we couldn't believe what we were looking at. And one of the girls said, "Who is that?" Just under her voice, like really quiet. Who is that? Or what is that? And then, because is it a person? You know what, right? And that's all that was said. Like after 10 seconds of silence. And then as soon as she said that, the humanoid figure, shadow person figure, it like moved to the side and you could hear it like rustling the corn stalks as it moved. And when everybody heard that sound, because it was a very quiet, still, clear night. There was no wind. It's Colorado. It's always sunny here, right? Except for this summer has been kind of weird. This summer has been very unusual. Lots of rain this summer, which is highly unusual for Colorado. But this was your typical Colorado country night. Stars were out, moon is shining, no wind, still calm night. And, there was the moonlight. And you couldn't see any features. You could see features on the one guy that went into the cemetery, right? You could see features on him. You could see the plaid design on his shirt. This was just a black obelisk, a humanoid-shaped thing. And we were all just dead silent for 10 seconds. And then the girl goes, "Whoa, what is that? Is that a person? Who is that?" Right? As soon as she said that, the humanoid figure, it like moves to the one side and we hear it like rustling the corn stalks as it moves. We heard like a rustling sound from the corn stalks. And the instant that sound happened, we saw the thing moving and we heard that sound. The instant that happened, everybody erupts. And this time, everybody's legit scared. It's not like the time I ran up on him and a couple of people went, who is that? You jerk. Oh, it's Kurt, right? Like that, right? It wasn't like that. No, everybody was fucking terrified. Everybody, all 12 or 15 people in the group, as soon as we saw the thing move and we heard the rustling of the corn stalks, everybody erupts with, "Ah!" We ran the fuck out of there. Everybody gets into their cars and fucking peels out. We get the fuck out of there and we left. We all just left. And that was it. Now, that wasn't all. The next day, I went there in person during the day. And this is probably a pretty brave move on my part, because my advice for you is do not fuck with shadow people. Shadow people have been reported to physically attack people, and they'll like rape women. Like women have been raped by shadow people, or they'll like attack you and punch you, or they'll like grab a blunt object and hit you with it and shit. Don't mess with shadow people, guys. Just like if you move into a house, for example, and there's a shadow person there, leave. Just move out. Just don't live there. But I just bought the place and oh my God, I signed the mortgage. Yeah, sell the place and get a different house. Okay? Ghosts you can get rid of. Shadow people, yeah, no. Not so much. Just leave. So I went there the next day when the sun was out, and I went to the exact spot where the shadow person was standing looking for footprints, and there were none. We all saw it. 12 or 15 witnesses. Yeah, that was a trip. Okay, next story. Are there any others? I think those are all the ghost stories. And again, I'm using ghost in the generic term, because ghost really is an entity, which I'm going to describe to you in the next story that I'm about to tell you right now. It does not appear to be living. A ghost. A spirit is a spirit. It could be somebody who's passed over to the other side. So a lot of you probably have a lot of stories to tell. Oh, I got 2 more stories to tell you. This video is going to be long. Well, maybe I'll do the other story in a different video. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll do a shorter video about it. Yeah. Somebody from my past came to visit me in my sleep. Anyway, that's a spirit, right? So somebody that I knew who they passed away and they came to visit me one day. Or your grandma, your dead grandma that visits you, right? Those are spirits. Those are people. Those are souls. It's consciousness, right? It's life. It has free will. Ghosts, they don't seem to have free will. So here's the ghost story, the other ghost. So I've told you stories in this video so far about spirits. There was the spirit living in my apartment. There was a spirit living in my friend's house where I liked to party. There was a spirit living in the Masonic temple or whatever it was. And then I just told you also 2 shadow person stories. Now I'm going to tell you a ghost story. And then next week I'll post a video about another spirit who came to visit me personally. Well, anyway, here's the ghost story. So again, a spirit is a conscious being. It's somebody who died. It's a person who died. It's a ghost. See, I just did it. A ghost is something else, which we're going to talk about. But it's just a label. If you want to call them ghosts, that's fine. Call them ghosts. But ghost in a larger sense could be a lot of different things. It depends on the context. Like spirits, shadow people, and ghosts. Oh, they're all ghosts. Well, technically a ghost is what I'm about to explain to you. This other story I'm going to tell you in a second. But technically, so those are ghosts, and then there's spirits, which are souls, conscious people, right? Okay, and then there's shadow people, which I don't know what the fuck those are. All I know is they're like pure evil. My theory is that they are entities who are conscious in a negative, it's like negative consciousness. They seem to have free will. It's not consciousness like the I am. It's like instead of pure positive energy, it's pure negative energy. Like consciousness is pure positive energy. It's infinite. It's source. I've talked about this a lot on this channel. Shadow people appear to be pure negative energy. Like it's infinitely negative, which may make it conscious in a different way. But it's like pure evil. That's the best way I can explain it. It's the opposite of the great I am, a shadow person. Okay? That's my theory about shadow people. Spirits, again, those are conscious people. Someone who's passed over, your dead grandma. There's also little vermin, little spirit demons that live on the in-between planes, planes. Between the physical plane and what we would call heaven, right? There's planes in between where little demons that like spiritually attack people. Like some of you talk about this kind of, I got to tell you about that, the times that I've been spiritually attacked. Yeah. By some of these entities. Now let's talk about actual ghosts. Like, what is a ghost? I'm going to give you an example right now that is so, man, I should make a specific video about this, but I'll just go ahead and tell it in this story, in this video. It's such a cool story. Yeah, wow. Maybe I'll re-release this story and do more of a presentation style video around Halloween. That might be a good time for something like this. But I'll tell you the story right now. So here in Colorado, we had the first ever act of domestic air terrorism in the United States. The first ever act of domestic air terrorism in the United States happened over a little country town called Meade, M-E-A-D, Meade, Colorado. And I used to know a girl that grew up there. On the farm where the bodies ended up. Now, the bombing took place in 1955. It was United Flight 629. You can just hop on Google and type in United Flight 629. It was 1955. The guy responsible, he wanted to kill his mom, and and collect insurance money. And so he built a bomb, and it was like everything that Wile E. Coyote would be proud of. Wile E. Coyote, Looney Tunes cartoon, would be just totally proud of this bomb that he built, because it was like the red, long sticks of dynamite, like a big bundle of those, and the mechanical wind-up clock for a timer, and the curly Q wires that connect to the clock, right? You get the picture? It was the 50s. That is what a bomb looked like back then, right? And it was very heavy. He hid the the bomb in his mom's luggage, and he got it onto the plane somehow, because in the 50s, they didn't really check your baggage at all. They didn't run it through X-ray. They do now because of this guy, right? And no X-ray or anything like that. You could just walk up to the plane entrance from the outside door to the airport. You go in to the main entrance of the airport. There's no security check, nothing. You just can walk right up to the damn plane. And the only thing the attendant wants to see is if you have a ticket. That's it. There's no security checkpoints, nothing. It was the 50s. And they also had where you could buy like life insurance at the airport. So you buy it like in a cigarette machine kind of thing, life insurance, because people were afraid of flying. People still had a fear of flying in the 1950s, and the technology wasn't as good back then. There were more plane crashes back then too. So rightfully so, but he bought an insurance policy on her, sent her away onto the airplane, made sure that the bomb got onto the airplane in her luggage, and he was really sweating it too, because the flight got delayed by like 25 or 30 minutes or something. He timed it where her plane was going to Alaska or something, I think, from Colorado. And so his plan was that the plane, it should blow up over this remote part of Wyoming where it would be almost impossible to recover the wreckage, right? And, this bomb is not radio controlled. You wind it up, you send it on its way, and it blows up unless you pull the wire out. So by the time the bomb was in the luggage compartment on the plane, there's nothing you can do about it. And he wanted the plane to blow up over Wyoming so that it would be harder for them to get the evidence. But unfortunately, the flight got delayed by like 30 minutes or something, or 20 minutes or whatever. And so it ended up blowing up over this little town in Colorado called Mead. And it wasn't even Mead proper. It was apparently, there was the town of Mead, and then the outskirts. There's a farm, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles away, which was considered part of Mead or something. But anyway, the plane takes off and it blows up over Mead, Colorado, instead of making it to Wyoming, which is further to the north. But whatever, the plane blew up. It killed everybody on board. There were seats embedded 6 feet in the ground with passengers still strapped into the seats. Now, this was 1955. There was a farmhouse there on the property. United Flight 629. There's a picture of, like, one of the famous pictures was the tail of the plane. And it was in the corner of the farm lot. And this girl that I know that grew up there, I remember we even drove around the farm. And she said, yeah, that's the corner of the farm. That's where they found the tail. So there's like the old country dirt road that goes around the farm. And as we were turning the corner, she goes, that's where the tail was. I remember that. And then we drove up to the house. And, her dad apparently bought the house in the 70s, I think. So the bombing had been more than 20 years prior. But there was the house, and then next to the house was a tree. And the tree was like this far from the house, literally. I mean, the tree was like overhanging the house. It was right there, right? And they found bodies in the tree too, right? Like hanging from the tree there. Like it blew up right over the damn farm and bodies landed. There were 40-something people, 44 people that were all killed. And they caught the guy, the FBI, they collected all the bodies and the wreckage of the plane, and they put it all together in a warehouse in Fort Collins, I think, and reassembled it and kind of pieced everything together. And within 12 days, they arrested the guy. They found him. Because, of course, one of the things that they looked for was, well, did anybody buy an insurance policy on any of the passengers in the plane? And they would go question everybody. And they follow all the leads, and they found out that he actually purchased a bunch of bomb-making supplies, right? So that's how they caught him. Well, anyway, let's get to the ghost story. So fast forward to the early 1980s when she was a little kid, like 2 years old. And before you reach your teenage years, you're a little kid, you haven't been told again and again and again by the grown-ups that there's no such thing as ghosts, or you're just seeing things, or you're just imagining things, right? When you see things like ghosts and stuff, like when you're a little kid, or you have experiences like that, and then you go tell the grown-ups about it, they go, oh, you're just seeing things. And then by the time you're a teenager, you don't see those things anymore, because you've been programmed to believe that those things aren't real, even though you actually did see something. So she's like a little 2-3-year-old little girl in the early 1980s, 1983, 84, she would see these people in her house staring at her. And it was a full-blown apparition. It was a ghost. And it had like a blurry face. And now she understands later in life, like, why they were wearing 1950s clothes. When she was a little girl, she didn't realize that they were wearing 1950s clothes. But now thinking back, she's like, yeah, they were wearing 1950s clothes. Oh, gee, I wonder why. And there was the main character from the story, which was the guy's mom. Her name was Daisy. And he's the one that she's the person who he wanted to kill. Her name was Daisy. Her name was Daisy. And she would stand just in the middle of the house between the living room and the kitchen. And everywhere that my friend would walk, little little 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old girl, the mom would pivot and like watch her walk everywhere. She would like follow her everywhere she went as she was walking. And as young as she was, she knew that it was kind of weird. And she would go to her mom and go, "Mom, why are these people in our house? What are they doing here?" And her mom would go, "There's nobody here. What are you talking about?" And there was another guy wearing a suit that she would see sometimes too. And the woman that would pivot around and follow her, several times she told her, "I'm the mom, I'm the mom, I'm the mom. I'm the mom, I'm the mom, I'm the mom." Now, here's the difference between a spirit and a ghost. The ghost plays out a tape recording again and again and again. All the woman could do was follow her around and say, "I'm the mom, I'm the mom, I'm the mom." And then the other guy in the suit, he would like walk in a straight line on one part of the house. And every time my friend saw the guy, that's what he would do. He would follow this program every single time. He would walk the same path. And you'll hear the story about the woman that was hit by a train or something sometimes. You hear stories like that, right? You'll hear stuff like that. And they're always walking the same path, aren't they? They're always walking the same path. And every time somebody sees the ghost, it's the woman walking across the train tracks. And she's always walking the exact same route every time, right? That's a ghost. And my theory about ghosts is that it is the identity entity of the human that used to live. So remember, body, mind, soul. The soul is the consciousness, the spirit, the life, actual life. The mind is what I'm calling the identity entity. So remember, it's a collection of retained thought and emotional patterns, old tape recordings, memories, and they accumulate over the course of your life. And it becomes an identity. I'm a mom, I'm a brother, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a truck driver, I'm a teacher, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a cook, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative. I've done these things with my life, I've been to these places. And by the time you're an adult, it becomes an entity. But it's not really life. It just mimics life. This is what they call the ego, the id. It's an entity. It's like a bundle of energy of different experiences, memories, thoughts, and emotions. It's an entity. And this is what, by the way, aura seers, people who can see auras, that's what they're seeing is your energy cloud, your ego mind cloud, right? It's an entity. And usually when people see ghosts, it's a death that was either unexpected or unwilling. Like somebody, even if they die in their bed of a terminal illness, they're like fighting it to the bitter end. Like, no, I can't die. This isn't happening. The person themselves, like they just don't want to let go. Right. And so that's how the ghost of the person ends up stuck on this plane. See what I did there? The ghost of the person ends up, but it's just a ghost. It's an imprint. The spirit goes on. The spirit goes on to do something else. Maybe, I don't know. There's debate about that. Like people that study ghosts and like ghost hunters and spiritual teachers, they kind of debate about that. There is a thought that perhaps if you have this dense cloud of ego mind, which is still attached to the physical plane, that you're somehow tethered to it as you're trying to make it to the higher realms, and it becomes a problem. And this is where we get into a conversation about, is there purgatory? Right? And there's lots of strange stuff like that on Earth. And I'm not really sure that you could find stories like that out there in the cosmos in highly evolved civilizations. These are just my opinions. You don't have to agree with any of this stuff. It's just, I'm trying to figure out like the mechanics of all this. There's got to be an explanation. But Earth, Earth is ruled by a very dark force called the demiurge. The Bible calls it the devil or Satan, which again is an entity force. It's not life. It's like the ego mind, the id. It's an entity. It mimics life, but it's not conscious. But these ghosts, these entities kind of support the theory that it does have sentience in the sense that it can repeat patterns and it can think, but it's an it. It's not conscious, it's not life, but it's sentient. And sentience is not quite consciousness, it's more like thought. Cognizance is being conscious of sentience. I think is the best way to explain that. I mean, you can pick hairs with me over the dictionary definition, but this is a spiritual topics channel and I'm explaining some weird shit right now. So just, if you have your own interpretation of reality when it comes to these things, that's fine. Nobody really knows the answer, but these entities appear to be just that. And that's why we call them ghosts. It's not really the person, it's a ghost of the person. And whether or not that person can really pass on to the other side completely has been questioned. I'm a fervent believer in liberty and freedom. And I don't like the idea that something could be done to me. Like if I was killed accidentally. I've got a story I got to tell you about that too in a later video where I was almost killed and I was overcome with this intense sense of peace, of Satori. Yeah, that'll be a good one. So nobody really knows. They don't appear to be conscious because they just keep repeating these same patterns, just like the ghosts at my friend's house that she grew up in. Yeah, weird story, man. Cool, kind of a cool story. I've never seen a ghost. I've seen angels. Oh man, wait till I tell you the other angel story about the angel that sat across from me on a fucking train. And that story is actually already on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to reshoot that video using my modern studio and better lighting and stuff like that. But that'll be a cool one. So this is just all very interesting. What I firmly believe that you have complete free will to choose what happens to you after you die. But what seems to be consistent with a ghost is that they come from times, or they maybe apply to people who already held a belief system, like a religious ideology or a belief system that said that what's going to happen to me after I die is out of my control. So kind of the religious belief system about I'm going to be judged by God and I'm going to be granted admission to heaven, or I'm going to be sent to hell and it's out of my control and I'm powerless. And so before they've even died, they're powerless. And that maybe explains why those energies get stuck here on the physical plane is because the person died believing that they don't have any control. And so now they're experiencing a scenario where they are powerless, they don't have control. And so maybe they are tethered to the ghost, but somehow existing in a higher purgatory plane, which is an intermediary between the physical plane and full-blown heaven, which is exactly where you and I are going to go when we do the thing that we call die. So where does this belief about purgatory come from? And a lot of this stuff has been misinterpreted by other religions. I might not be explaining it properly, although what I think I'm doing is trying to explain it in a scientific way. And I'm grabbing at other principles that you've heard in spiritual and religious circles and kind of connecting the dots is what I'm doing. And I kind of think that maybe is what's going on. And that's too bad. But all they've got to do is remember that they're unlimited and that they are free, and then they can leave. They can leave the situation. That's all they got to do. But I think that may happen by default as a result of the spiritual awakening that's taking place on Earth. Maybe we will end up seeing less and less reports of ghosts in the coming decades as this spiritual awakening takes off. I think that kind of makes sense. It'll dissolve more of that heavy, dense energy. So there you go. There's Kurt's video on ghosts, lots of ghost stories, explanation about what I think ghosts are. Very interesting stuff. Thank you for watching. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.